July 1944. A small town in New Hampshire. 730 delegates from 44 countries gathered in a hotel that most Americans had never heard of. They came to rebuild the world after the most destructive war in human history. But here's the thing nobody talks about. What happened in that hotel didn't just rebuild the world. It created a system that would make every country on earth dependent on one nation, one currency, one set of rules. Today, 80 years later, the U.S. controls $34 trillion in debt. But that's not the scary part. The scary part? The entire world owes over $315 trillion, 3 times the size of the global economy. And most of that debt, it's denominated in U.S. dollars. This isn't an accident. This isn't luck. This is strategy. A strategy that took decades to build. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let me show you how America turned paper into power. Rewind to 1944. World War II is almost over. Europe is in ruins. Britain is broke. France is occupied. Germany is collapsing. And the United States? It holds 75% of the world's gold reserves. 75%. 3/4 of all the gold on the planet sitting in American vaults. So when those 730 delegates showed up at Bretton Woods, they weren't really negotiating. They were listening. The deal was simple. Every country would peg their currency to the US dollar. And the US dollar, it would be pegged to gold. $35 per ounce. Fixed. Guaranteed. You want dollars? America gives you dollars. You want gold? America gives you gold. Sounds fair, right? Here's what they didn't tell you. This system meant that every country needed dollars to trade, to buy oil, to do anything in the global economy. And where do dollars come from? Only one place, the United States. Overnight, the dollar became the oxygen of global trade. And America became the lungs. But there was a problem, a big one, and it was hiding in plain sight. See, the Bretton Woods system had a fatal flaw. America promised that every dollar was backed by gold, $35 for 1 ounce. Anyone could walk up and exchange their dollars for real, physical gold. In the beginning, this worked. America had the gold, America had the credibility. Countries trusted the system. But then something changed. The 1950s, the Korean War, the 1960s, Vietnam, the Great Society programs, Medicare, Medicaid. America was spending big. And to pay for it all, they printed more dollars. By 1966, there were more dollars floating around the world than America had gold to back them. Way more. France noticed first. Charles de Gaulle, the French president, he didn't trust the Americans. He called it America's exorbitant privilege, the ability to print money and make the whole world accept it. So he did something bold. He started sending ships, literal ships, loaded with dollars, demanding gold in return. Between 1959 and 1969, U.S. gold reserves dropped from $19.4 billion to $11.1 billion. Almost half. Gone. Other countries watched. They started asking questions. Wait, does America actually have enough gold? What happens if everyone asks for their gold back at the same time? And that's when Richard Nixon made a decision that changed everything. August 15th, 1971, a Sunday evening. Nixon appeared on television. He told Americans he was protecting the dollar from speculators. He said it was temporary. It wasn't temporary. Nixon ended the gold standard. Just like that. No warning, no negotiation. The dollar was no longer backed by gold. It was backed by nothing. Just trust. Just the promise that America would pay its debts. Now, think about this for a second. If you or I printed money with nothing behind it, we'd go to prison. But when America did it, the world just accepted it. Why? Because they had no choice. Every country had built their economy around the dollar. Their reserves were in dollars, their trade was in dollars, their debts were in dollars. Switching to something else? Impossible. Too expensive. Too risky. Nixon didn't just end the gold standard. He trapped the world in a system with no exit. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. After 1971, America could print as much money as it wanted. No limits, no gold requirement, just paper. And the world had to accept it. because what else were they going to use? In 1971, the U.S. national debt was $398 billion. Today, it's $34 trillion. That's an 8,400% increase. And most of it happened after we left the gold standard. Coincidence? But wait, if America can just print money, why does anyone still trust the dollar? Why hasn't the whole system collapsed? 2 words: petro, dollars. 1973, the oil crisis. Arab nations embargo oil to the West. Prices quadruple. Gas lines stretch for miles. The world economy is in chaos. Nixon sends his Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, to Saudi Arabia. The deal he made? It's never been officially confirmed, but here's what happened next. Saudi Arabia agreed to sell all its oil exclusively in US dollars. Every barrel, no exceptions. In return, America provided military protection, weapons, security guarantees. Think about what this means. Oil is the most traded commodity on Earth. Every country needs it. And if you need oil, you need dollars first. It doesn't matter if you're in Germany, Japan, or Brazil. You want to buy oil? Get dollars. This created permanent, endless demand for the US dollar. Countries had to hold dollars in reserve. They had to earn dollars through trade. They had to stay in America's good graces. By 1975, every OPEC nation had agreed to the same deal. Oil for dollars, dollars for protection. The dollar wasn't backed by gold anymore. It was backed by something better: energy, the lifeblood of modern civilization. And if any country tried to sell oil in a different currency, well, let's just say it didn't end well for them. But that's a story for another time. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. America wasn't just printing money, it was lending it to everyone. After World War II, the U.S. created institutions: the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. On paper, these organizations existed to help developing countries grow, to fight poverty, to build infrastructure. But look closer. When a country borrows from the IMF, the loan comes with conditions. Structural adjustments, they call them. Open your markets to foreign investment. Privatize your state industries. Cut government spending. Remove trade barriers. Sound familiar? These conditions almost always benefit American corporations, American banks, American investors. The country gets the loan. America gets the access. Between 1980 and 2000, over 100 countries went through IMF structural adjustment programs. And what happened? Many of them ended up more indebted than before, trapped in a cycle of borrowing, paying interest, and borrowing again. Argentina, 2001. The country defaulted on $93 billion in debt, the largest sovereign default in history at that time. They had followed IMF advice for years. They had done everything they were told. And still, they collapsed. But here's the thing. The IMF didn't lose money. The banks didn't lose money. The people of Argentina, they lost everything. This is how debt becomes control. You don't need an army. You don't need to invade. You just need to lend and keep lending until they can't say no to anything you ask. Let's talk about something closer to home. You might be thinking, okay, so America controls other countries through debt. But what about America itself? Who controls American debt? This is where it gets uncomfortable. As of 2024, foreign countries hold about $8 trillion in U.S. Treasury bonds. Japan holds $1.1 trillion. China holds $770 billion. The UK, Luxembourg, Canada, Belgium, they all hold hundreds of billions. Wait, if other countries own American debt, doesn't that mean they control America? Not exactly. See, U.S. Treasury bonds are considered the safest investment in the world. Countries don't buy them because they want to control America. They buy them because they have nowhere else to put their dollars. Remember, these countries earn dollars through trade. They sell goods to America, they get paid in dollars. Now what? They can't just let billions of dollars sit in a bank account, so they invest. And the safest investment? U.S. government debt. It's genius, really. America buys products from the world. The world takes those dollars and lends them right back to America. America uses that money to buy more products. The cycle continues. It's like paying for your groceries with your credit card, and then the grocery store takes your payment and buys your debt. You owe them. They owe you. But somehow, you're still in charge. In 2023, the U.S. ran a trade deficit of $773 billion. That means America bought $773 billion more than it sold. In any normal country, this would be a disaster. But for America, it's the system working as designed. Now, you might be wondering, can this last forever? Some people thought the 2008 financial crisis would end it. It didn't. Some people thought COVID would end it. It didn't. Some people think China will end it. Maybe, maybe not. Here's what we know. The US dollar makes up about 59% of global foreign exchange reserves, down from 71% in 2000. It's declining, slowly, but it's still dominant by far. The euro is second at 20%. The Chinese yuan, just 2.7%. China has tried to create alternatives. The Belt and Road Initiative, loans in yuan instead of dollars, new payment systems. But so far, nothing has seriously threatened dollar dominance. Why? Because trust takes decades to build, and the alternatives have problems. Would you trust your country's reserves to the Chinese yuan when China has capital controls? When its government can change rules overnight? When its financial system is opaque? The dollar isn't strong because America is perfect. The dollar is strong because everywhere else seems worse. But here's the thing about systems built on trust. They work until they don't. And when they stop working, they stop fast. Let me tell you about something that almost nobody talks about. In recent years, the U.S. has used a weapon more powerful than any missile: financial sanctions. When America doesn't like what a country is doing, it doesn't always send troops. It freezes assets. It cuts access to the dollar system. It turns off the lights. Iran found this out in 2012. Cut off from SWIFT, that's the global banking network, their economy shrank by 6% in a single year. Inflation hit 40%. They couldn't sell oil. They couldn't buy medicine. All without a single shot fired. Venezuela, same story. Sanctions froze $7 billion in state assets. Their oil exports collapsed by 99%. 99%. Russia, $300 billion frozen. And here's what every country watching learned. Your dollar reserves? They're not really yours. America can freeze them whenever it wants. All it takes is one political decision, one disagreement, one policy Washington doesn't like. Think about that. Countries spend decades building reserves. They sacrifice, they save, they play by the rules. And in one afternoon, an executive order can make it all disappear. This is why, since 2022, central banks around the world have been buying gold at record rates. In 2022, they bought 1,136 metric tons. In 2023, another 1,037 tons, the highest levels in decades. Countries are hedging. They're not abandoning the dollar, not yet, but they're building alternatives, just in case. And that just in case is new. That fear didn't exist 10 years ago. Not like this. So what happens next? Let me paint two scenarios. Scenario 1. Nothing changes. The dollar remains dominant. America keeps borrowing. The world keeps lending. Interest payments grow. $659 billion in 2023. Maybe $1 trillion by 2030. But as long as everyone keeps playing the game continues. Scenario 2. Something breaks. Maybe it's China dumping treasuries. Maybe it's a political crisis in the US. Maybe it's a new currency, digital, decentralized, something we haven't imagined yet. Trust erodes. Countries diversify. The dollar loses its privilege. If that happens, the consequences for America would be severe. Suddenly, the US couldn't borrow at low interest rates. Imports would become expensive. Inflation would spike. The lifestyle Americans take for granted, it would change overnight. This isn't fear-mongering. It's math. America spends more than it earns. It borrows the difference. And it can only keep doing this because the world accepts its IOUs. If that acceptance disappears, well, ask Britain. In 1944, the pound sterling was the world's reserve currency. They thought it would last forever, too. Let's zoom out for a second. What I've just told you isn't conspiracy. It's history. It's documented. It's in the public record. But somehow, it's not taught in schools. It's not discussed in the news. It's just there, hiding in plain sight. And now, I want you to think about something. Every time you hear about foreign aid, ask yourself, is it really aid, or is it a loan with strings attached? Every time you hear about a country opening its markets, ask yourself, opening to whom? Who benefits? Every time you hear that the U.S. can't afford something at home, education, healthcare, infrastructure, remember that America creates the world's money. The question was never about affording, it was about choosing. The debt system isn't just about economics, it's about power. Who has it, who doesn't, and how it stays that way. I want to leave you with one final thought. In 1971, when Nixon ended the gold standard, the national debt was $398 billion. Americans were worried. How will we ever pay this back? Today, the debt is $34 trillion. And honestly, most people have stopped asking that question. Maybe because they realize the truth. America doesn't plan to pay it back. Not really. The system isn't designed for repayment. It's designed for perpetuation. Keep borrowing. Keep spending. Keep the dollars flowing. As long as the music plays, everyone dances. But every party ends eventually. The question isn't whether the system will change. The question is when, and whether you'll be ready when it does. Because here's the secret that nobody in Washington wants you to understand. The debt isn't a bug in the system. It's the feature. It's the chain that links every nation to American power. And as long as that chain holds, America remains the center of the world. But chains can break. And when $34 trillion in IOUs suddenly needs to find a home, well, that's when things get interesting. You've now seen how the machine works. The Bretton Woods Agreement, the Nixon shock, the petrodollar deal, the IMF conditions, the weaponization of reserves. Every piece, carefully placed over decades. And the most remarkable part? It's not hidden. It's all there, in the open. We just never connected the dots. Until now.